Taiwan is fighting the coronavirus and the World Health Organization. How did a UN body become a slave to China? This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The World Health Organization, WHO. Now, this may surprise you, but the organization whose symbol is a snake coiling around the world is not super trustworthy. Apparently, the logo originates from the story of Asclepius, who was revered by the ancient Greeks as a god of healing, and whose cult involved the use of snakes. Great! The cult of snakes is tasked with global health. On an unrelated note, the World Health Organization is horribly corrupt. So corrupt that a recent audit found that the division tackling the coronavirus is underfunded. That's your US taxpayer dollars not at work. The US contributes about $500 million a year to the WHO, more than double any other country. But it seems that China is the one really pulling the strings. The Chinese Communist Party considers Taiwan a province of China, despite the fact that Taiwan is obviously its own country, which is why the WHO has refused to recognize the country of Taiwan because the People's Republic of China refuses to recognize the country of Taiwan and blocks it from entering the United Nations. The WHO is a UN agency. There have been about 300 infections and 3 deaths from the coronavirus in Taiwan. And remember, this outbreak began in China and spread because the Chinese Communist Party covered it up, which is why I call it the CCP virus. By the way, I provided a link below so you can download this image and share it on social media. But the fact that the WHO does not recognize Taiwan because of Chinese political pressure has become a big problem during the coronavirus pandemic. The good news is the WHO's treatment of Taiwan has become so cartoonishly bad, people are starting to take notice. Here's WHO Assistant Director General Bruce Aylward during a recent interview with Radio Television Hong Kong.
Will the WHO consider Taiwan's membership? Hello?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear your question.
Okay, yeah, let me repeat the question.
No, that's okay. Let's move to another one then.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question, so let's please forget you asked whatever it was and move on to another question. Well, I think I know why you had a hard time hearing the question. You know, a lot of people have that problem these days. Anyway, the reporter followed up with another question about Taiwan and the WHO, and this time Aylward accidentally hung up. So she called back.
And I just want to see if you can comment a bit on how Taiwan has done so far in terms of containing the virus.
Well, we've already talked about China, and when you look across all the different areas of China, they've actually all done quite a good job. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting us to participate, and good luck as you go forward with the battle in Hong Kong.
You know, I have to say, I think we all had the exact same reaction as this reporter. And then I saw it. That wasn't a snake in the WHO symbol in the background, it was a $sign. Now, this is not the first time Assistant Director General Aylward has said some pretty outrageous things about China during the coronavirus outbreak.
If I had COVID-19, I want to be treated in China.
Maybe that's because, as Aylward told a Washington Post reporter, he hadn't been to any dirty areas in Wuhan. That's a justification he gave for why he didn't need to be quarantined after visiting Wuhan back in February. He also hastily left the press conference because he had a plane to catch. He's a swell guy. But after his embarrassing interview with Radio Television Hong Kong went viral, the WHO mysteriously removed him from their website. I know, it's strange. Here's a Google cached image of the WHO website on March 28th. And then on March 29th, after the interview, poof, gone. So the WHO pretends like Taiwan doesn't exist. Then Aylward pretends like the question didn't exist. And now the WHO pretends like Aylward doesn't exist. I guess Aylward got Taiwaned. That same day, the WHO issued a rare statement saying the question of Taiwanese membership in the WHO is up to WHO member states, not WHO staff. However, WHO is working closely with all health authorities who are facing the current coronavirus pandemic, including Taiwanese health experts. That's their emphasis, not mine. The next day, Taiwan said they had been sharing coronavirus information with the WHO, but the WHO was not passing that information on to their member states. That's right, even though Taiwan shares its coronavirus information with the WHO doesn't publish it for the rest of the world. That came after earlier accusations that the WHO just ignored Taiwan's questions at the start of the outbreak, and that the WHO had ignored Taiwan's warnings about human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus back in December. On December 31st, Taiwan reported to the WHO that Taiwanese doctors had heard from Chinese doctors that medical workers treating people with the coronavirus were getting sick. That's a sign of human-to-human transmission. But it seems that the WHO ignored that information. On January 14th, the WHO tweeted that preliminary investigations conducted by the Chinese authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the novel coronavirus. Chinese officials didn't publicly announce any cases of human-to-human transmission until January 20th. That's 3 weeks after Taiwan had tried to report it to the WHO. So I think BBC might be making a slight understatement when it says Taiwan has become a problem for the WHO. Taiwan is seen as one of the few places in the world which has successfully stemmed the spread of the coronavirus without resorting to draconian measures. But despite its efforts, it is still effectively locked out of membership in the WHO due to its complex relationship with China. Complex relationship is also an understatement. But they're British, so give them a break. Speaking of complex relationships, the Hong Kong public broadcaster that did the interview with WHO official Bruce Aylward, in which he mysteriously couldn't hear the word Taiwan, is now in trouble. The Hong Kong government is accusing RTHK of violating the One China principle by asking about Taiwan and therefore breaking its charter. The good news is that RTHK is not backing down. Gosh, I almost feel bad for the WHO. Not only do they have to answer awkward questions about Taiwan, now they're going to have to answer awkward questions about Hong Kong, too. But that's what happens when you start licking the boots of the Chinese Communist Party. Hope they don't get the CCP virus. Next up, I'll answer a question from a fan who supports China Uncensored on Patreon. But first, did you know YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people from the show? Take a moment to make sure you're still subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Today's Patreon question comes from Jackie. I laugh when the CCP reported no new cases. Anyway, my question is, how corrupt do you think the WHO is? I've seen a video by Ben Shapiro and they seem to be praising China, yet China is the one who really messed things up. Well, that is the question. I'm not really sure we can quantify how corrupt the WHO is, since they're probably not keeping meticulous records of their corruption. But I recently made an episode called Coronavirus, How WHO Corruption Helped It Spread. Check it out for the full story, but here are some of the highlights. Back in 2017, the Associated Press ran this piece, saying it found more than a third of the WHO's $2 billion budget went to travel, including a lot of first-class airfare and five-star hotels. And U.S. taxpayers are the biggest contributor to the WHO budget. Then there's the audit I referred to earlier. It found there has been a surge in internal corruption allegations across the whole of the organization, with the detection of multiple schemes aimed at defrauding large sums of money from the international body. That included an upsurge of internal complaints of corruption, fraud, and even sexual harassment from across the 7,000-strong organization, overwhelming an internal team of 4 full-time investigators and 2 consultants. Besides that, China has a bunch of shady investments in Ethiopia. I bring that up because the current head of the World Health Organization was a big player in the corrupt Ethiopian government. China also backed his campaign to lead the WHO. And if you just look at the really bizarre way the WHO has handled the coronavirus, from praising the Chinese Communist Party to denying the existence of Taiwan, you've got to suspect something is up. Which might be one reason why President Trump is looking to cut U.S. funding for the WHO in half. Thanks for your question, Jackie. And thank you for watching. Remember, YouTube has been demonetizing almost all of our videos. They'd have run us out of business if it weren't for your support. So please contribute through the crowdfunding website Patreon. Those folks, I like to call them the China Uncensored 50-cent army. So if you'd like to hear your question answered at the end of an episode, join the China Uncensored 50-cent army by going to patreon.com/China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.